Hey everybody, hope you all are doing well and welcome back to Whiskey Wonders. And seeing as though it is now the very end of the month of August, which has been an immensely amazing month for us thus far, at least as far as whiskey goes, today we are going to be doing our August whiskey haul where we get a chance to show some of the great bottles that we were able to procure this month, things like Pappies and BTACs, and some very quirky scotches, which I think I'm actually most proud of. Also, there are a couple bottles that we didn't get to show because we didn't have time to get them because they came too late, or we didn't have enough footage to really kind of put them in with the other wonders. So today we are doing an epic whiskey haul where we literally spent thousands of dollars and many man hours, I guess people hours, not the wife in there, right? A couple hours hunting down these whiskeys. And, this time the stars all seem to align for us to be able to get them. Now, before we get to the video, though, if you like these videos, if you like the wonders, if you like the hauls, if you like the reviews, the unbottlings, the unboxings, and really all the amazing stuff that we got cooking up for you, don't forget to like and subscribe because it does really help the channel to grow, and we are so thankful for that. But also because you get updates when our newest videos come out on Sundays and sometimes in between. All right, now, let's get down to the video. All right, so for a real quick whiskey check while we are getting warmed up, and hopefully you're getting warmed up too, let's get a glass here. And I think today I am going to be enjoying something a little nice, on the nicer side, when I'm feeling a little frisky. I'm going to be enjoying Booker's Noes batch, which is 2021-4. Because it's been kind of a long month, and I just need a little extra oomph in my juice today. So it's got a pretty good ABV there. So yeah, let's see if we can get a pop here. And they do get pops because they have real corks. Let's see if we can get a pop here. Not as good as it could have been. Gotta glue that back on there. And let's get a little bit of juice here. Oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about. And whiskey, because honestly, let's face it, you can never really drink too much of it. You can only just drink it too fast. Cheers. That is exactly what I needed. All right, so first up for today, we're going to start with some of the flashier and really the more hyped and extra pricey bottles, at least on the secondary market for this haul. The first one up is going to be this Rip Van Winkle 10. Old Rip Van Winkle 10. Yeah, this one specifically is from 2022, and not like a bottle like this really needs much introduction, but just in case, it is out of the Buffalo Trace family. It is not technically a Pappy Van Winkle, but it is kind of one of those first stages on the rings of the ladder of the cursus honorum for you Roman lovers there of the Pappy line. Because you can start with the old Rip Van Winkle 10 and not spend too much money, and then kind of accelerate your bourbon enjoyment through the ladder up to Pappy 23. Similarly, also, it is from the wheated mash bill, like some of the other bourbons that we were lucky enough to get this month. But the nice thing about this one that really differentiates it from, say, for example, the Lot B, which we'll get to here in a second, is that it has a considerably higher ABV at 53.5 ABV, or that's 107 proof. And I also like the very chaotic bottle design going around there. Like, it's kind of actually thought-provoking. Maybe he's been just drinking too much whiskey and looking at the bottle labels. But either way, we got this one from overseas. We paid $812.05 for it. And that is the old Rip Van Winkle 10. And it is the first of the Pappy lines that we add to the collection this month. So still very excited to have it. That is the old Rip Van Winkle 10. All right, next up, as to not get too bourbon heavy, at least in this early in the haul, next up is going to be one that we got from the Costco in Moreno Boulevard in San Diego. And it's one that I have actually really had my eye on for the last year or so, but just the stars never aligned to pick it up, but it just happened to work out this month, which is this Laphroaig 16. Yeah, normally it's 10, but this one, 16. And the real reason that I'm really excited about this one is because if you've seen some of the other videos, you will know that I am a member of the Pete mob, which means I love scotches from Islay, and I love that smoky and peatiness, and possibly even to the point that sometimes the wife begins to worry because she's like, "Oh, does this cause cancer? It's so smoky," and I'm kind of like, maybe. Actually, if the smoke doesn't, the alcohol might. Anyways, the Laphroaig 16 to me was important to add to the collection because first, it is Laphroaig, and I do like Laphroaig. Also, the fact that at 16 years old, it might be a very nice comparative to the Lagavulin 16 because typically when you compare Laphroaig to Lagavulin, Laphroaig is going to be at an age deficit in comparison to the standard Lagavulin because the Laphroaig 10 is the standard version and it's only 10 years versus the Lagavulin 16, which is 16. So oftentimes these all get compared next to each other, but really Laphroaig is at an age as well as a price deficit, meaning that the Lagavulin is older and has a higher price, which means they can put more of that dollars into making the juice. But in the case where we have the Laphroaig 16, some of that gap gets closed up. So the reason that we really got it and the reason that I'm very excited about it is because I think it will be a nice foil to the Lagavulin 16, and even better to get a chance to see how they compare next to each other side by side at the exact same age. So it's a little more apples to apples than it would have been apples to oranges as before. Now the Laphroaig is considerably more expensive than Lagavulin at $114.99, which means that the roles are kind of flipped in the sense that they have a little bit higher price advantage, which ideally, in my head at least, means that there's a little bit more money into the juice. But again, real excited to see how it compares to the Lagavulin 16. Excited to have this one on here. This is the Laphroaig 16. We got it from Costco. All right, next up, let's get back into the baseline of bourbon and get more to a straight-laced member of the Pappy Van Winkle family, which is the Van Winkle Family Reserve 12 Lot B. And again, this is another sort of the entry level on the Pappy line that's not technically Pappy, but I mean, it's sort of really Pappy. But unlike the Rip Van Winkle 10, the ABV is going to be a little bit more muted. You can see here the ABV on is at 45.2% ABV or 90.4 proof, which is considerably less. But the thing that I really admire about this bottle is that it is just a beautiful bottle and the labeling is so squared away, right? It just looks so neat and orderly and tidy. It feels like a fancy restaurant's prefix menu. It just looks so good. So I like that aspect of it, which is a pretty big contrast to the chaoticness that you see with the old Rip Van Winkle. It, of course, is going to be distilled by Buffalo Trace. It is highly allocated, and it has, again, a bit of a lackluster ABV, but it is also from the same wheated mash bill as old Rip Van Winkle 10, and really most of the Wellers as well, which, by the way, is rumored to be a mash bill of 70% corn, 16% wheat, and 14% malted barley. So whether it is or whether it is not, the reality is we are still very happy to add another one of the Pappy lines to our collection because we did not have one of this one yet. And I'm really sure that, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I'm going to drink this one or not. It's such a nice layout. I don't want to kind of ruin the whole facade of it. And it's such a beautiful bottle. But ultimately, all whiskeys must get drank, right? We got this one for $938. And we got this one also from overseas, the same place as the old Rip Van Winkle 10. That is the Van Winkle Family Reserve 12-year-old Lot B. Now, next up is a Scotch, another one out of Islay, perhaps a neighbor of Laphroaig, and probably really honestly a very raucous neighbor, if we can be honest, is one of my favorite whiskeys of all time, primarily because of the humor that the distillers have and the communal approach they have to making whiskey that is kind of quirky, which is going to be this Ardbeg Heavy Vapour, V-A-P-O-U-R. Now, you may know Ardbeg from a variety of whiskeys that they have released, like the Ardbeg and the Supernova, and well as the Bizzarrebq, which we'll get to here in a sec. And I just like kind of the quirkiness of the labels. I like the kind of strangeness and oddity that goes along with it. And also, I think that kind of culture really does bleed into the whiskey making as well. But ultimately, what does matter is that the whiskey inside, it is damn good. Especially if you like the taste of Pete, who I'm sure is a nice guy. But also, has a very ashy kind of tinge to it that you don't get from a Lagavulin or from a Laphroaig. The Heavy Vapour is, in fact, not the exception to this rule, but rather it is the epitome of what Ardbeg should be. Because of the fact that this year's release, the Vapour, was designed with making the most peaty and most ashy version in mind for Ardbeg. Now, in fact, they removed the mechanism at the top of the still that typically precludes the heaviest molecules, which also usually have the most amount of peat flavor in them when they are usually running. So with the whole intent of letting all those heavy molecules, or the heavy vapor, go back into the whiskey and allow it to really overpower some of the other flavors that typically are balanced out in the standard Ardbeg. So without that vapor catch, those heaviest molecules, they stay in the whiskey and give it a potentially perfect, profoundly peaty palate people postulate pensatively to be amazing. Initially, it was produced by committee, which usually is a bad thing, I think. Whenever you think about that is bad. But in this case, it is not. And they did it by committee, sort of like CYBP did with Weller. But, it's actually good. Just kidding, Weller people. It's okay. But we got this one from overseas as well. We got it for $131.99. And we just have to make sure that when we do open it, we open it in a well-ventilated area so the smokiness doesn't set off the alarms. Also, the ABV on it is quite nice at 50.2%, or that is 104 proof, 100 proof, 0.4. Man, math, not good. Ardbeg Heavy Vapour. Next up for this haul for this month is one that is from a long history of making great bourbon, from really all the different levels, at the just above the plastic bottle level of bourbons, all the way up to some of the higher end ones you can find, which is specifically, this one is the Wild Turkey 12, and it comes in a pretty amazing box. In this case, the Wild Turkey 12, which is, of course, American, but it is only sold overseas. Honestly, it kind of primarily focuses on the Asian market. And I bet you dollars to donuts that this one's probably quite good with some dim sum. Yeah. Now, the Wild Turkey is going to be, like I said, more of a gift if you could not tell by the box. It's something that you typically would find in maybe like a duty-free or sitting next to the Woodford Baccarat or the Hobie Keep Master Select. And it's something that I would say that most people would see and they would say, you know what, we should bring this back for Grandpa or for Dad or for Uncle Joe or for whomever, because it is such a beautiful bottle and such a beautiful box. And also, it's such a recognizable bourbon that anyone would know. But I think that once someone does get this, and if they try it, they will really find out that it is going to be heads and shoulders above what they would expect from a typical Wild Turkey. I mean, first, it is aged 12 years. Now, obviously, that is going to bring out a lot of those undertones that oftentimes get lost in whiskey that is mass-produced and that is honestly too young. And even though it does have the exact same mash bill as the normal Wild Turkey, it's 75% corn, 13% rye, and 12% malted barley, that difference of 12 years, I mean, that's going to make a huge deal. Now, the other noticeable thing about it is that it has not much of a heavy hitter as far as ABV goes, because the ABV on it is at 50.5% or 101 proof, which is pretty standard, which would make sense because the whiskey is exactly the same as normal Wild Turkey, just aged longer. And I would say that is probably where the problem comes in for American or Western consumers who are going to spend a fair amount of money on a bourbon, because oftentimes we like to have an expensive bourbon with a very high ABV attached to it. But at this ABV, it does seem like the very right ABV for some of those Asian markets where they typically have lower ones. We see it with the Blanton's Takara. We also see it with some of the Macallans that are at 40 or 43% ABV that are really geared towards the Asian market. So that is the Wild Turkey 12. We bought it for $130.80 again overseas. Had it shipped here. And, I don't know if we're ever going to actually open this one up, just because it is so good looking. It has such a nice little presentation. It might just be something really cool to have on the bar, but still happy to have it. Wild Turkey 12. All right, so for our penultimate whiskey for today is another oddball out from Ardbeg, which is one that we didn't get to show because it didn't get here in time for the other videos this month, which is going to be this Ardbeg Bizzarrebq, which always kind of makes me chuckle. It's a funny name for a whiskey. But this is yet another of the Ardbeg releases that is meant to really be a collaboration between Ardbeg and Christian Stevenson, aka DJ Barbecue, who, I guess, I don't really know what he does. I don't know if he's a DJ that barbecues or he's a barbecuer who DJs. Both are pretty cool. And really, I had never seen him on my Barbecue of the Month calendar, so I don't know, maybe it's for the younger kids, I guess. But either way, the Bizzarrebq is actually a pretty cool looking bottle. And if you notice on the label, one thing that I noticed is it has a really heavy influence from Super Mario from back in the day. This barbecue kind of looks like those bullets that they used to have on, I don't remember, the Sky Level, I think it was. But yeah, it's a collaboration that created this version of Ardbeg that is aged in badly burnt barrels, or as they refer to them, barbecued barrels. And the juice itself is aged in ex-bourbon, ex-sherry casks that are Pedro Jimenez. The barbecued style of burning the barrels is basically that they are burnt to the point that they're blackened to the point that they peel up, and presumably even longer than what you would get with the alligator char. So they are really just kind of torched. Although the Bizzarrebq doesn't have an age statement on it, it does have an ABV that is at 50.9%, which you can see right there, which I think is reasonable. It's definitely good. It's 101.8 proof. And my hope is that it will be, you know, as unique as I would expect from Ardbeg whiskey paired with a DJ who barbecues or a barbecuer who DJ. So yeah, either way, I mean, I am sort of a sucker for Ardbeg in general and kitschy whiskey. If you have not known by the Arby's smoked bourbon whiskey as well. We got this one for $89.99, and it's fun, it's interesting, it's kitschy, and I'm really interested to dig into it and excited to have it as a part of the collection. So that is the Ardbeg Bizzarrebq. Second to last up today is a whiskey that we got this month, and I am stupid excited about. It is a consummate crowd pleaser. It is a member of the BTAC family. And in fact, the thing I like most about it is that it is named after one of the best whiskey salesmen to have ever wandered the earth. He is the Michael Jordan of whiskey sales, the Dale Earnhardt of whiskey distribution, which is this George T Stagg from 2019. So obviously, when we look at the top of the bourbons that you can get pretty much anywhere, the GTS is always going to be on that list and always near the top. This 2019, though, is actually not the most popular of the GTS, I think primarily because of the ABV, which is at 58.45% or 116.9 proof, which is pretty high, but not that high when you're looking at things like the GTS. But you know, when you get offered a bottle that you want and it's at a price that you can get it at, then, you know, sometimes you got to go with the one that you're offered. And this we did. And the primary reason that we did end up shelling out for it is because, one, we wanted to grow the BTAC line of our collection, which I think is important for any really good collection, like everybody else, really. And also, it'll be the first of the GTS that we have ever actually tried. And although it is not the highest ABV that you're going to get with the GTS, it is still definitely good. And I think the thing that I look most forward to this and I like about it is that just how delicious the whiskey looks. I mean, the color on that is all natural, and that is just spectacularly beautiful. No filters. So this is going to be great when we find a good enough reason to try it. I don't know if I ever get elected president or something, maybe. But we got this one for $1,062.75. It is not the most expensive one we got this haul, but it's pretty darn close. That is the GTS George T Stagg 2019. Now, along those same lines, and this one actually has a pretty special spot in both of the wife and I's heart. And the wife is the one that actually found this one because we actually tried it. We tried it in Paris, and it was spectacular, which is this William Larue Weller. Now, when we tried it, we'd actually tried it next to, paired with a dram of Ichiro 20 years old, which was phenomenal as well. But in my opinion, the William Larue Weller actually did a pretty good job of holding its own next to it in nuance, in complexity, and definitely with ABV. The William Larue Weller is really the top of the heap when it comes to weeded whiskeys, above what you're going to find with the normal standard Weller lines and above what you're going to find with some of the weeded mash bills from Buffalo Trace. This one is going to be the top of the top. The best weeded juices that come out of Buffalo Trace, they go into William Larue Weller first, and they trickle down to everybody else. And that's what makes it obviously so sought after and also so amazing when you actually try it. This one specifically is from 2021, and again, we're really happy to get it because it grows the BTAC line. It doesn't really matter which year it was, but 2021 is also a pretty good year. And also, we're excited to find it after having a pretty long drought of not being able to get any of the high-end Buffalo Trace whiskeys that we had sought after. Of course, we did get this one from overseas as well. We paid the most out of it. In fact, we paid more for it than all the other bottles combined except for the GTS. We paid $1,520.50 cents. So obviously, it is great to have in the collection because it grows the collection on the BTAC side. And also, I think secondarily is because when we do end up drinking this one, the wife and I will have a nice memory of enjoying it in Paris every time we bust it out. If we do. When we do. Should we? We should. Yeah. What do we do? So that is the William Larue Weller. All right, so that's it for today's haul, and I really hope that you enjoyed this video, and I really hope that you enjoy all of our videos, whether it is the wanders, or the hauls, or the reviews, or the unbottlings, the unboxings, and really all the amazing stuff that we got cooking up for you, because we have tons of amazing stuff cooking up for you. And if you do, please don't forget to like and subscribe, because it does really help the channel to grow, which we are so thankful for. But also because you get updates when our newest videos come out. It's good for your whiskey mojo and pleases the whiskey gods, which you definitely want to do. Now, just remember, if you do find a whiskey that you love, just buy it, because if you don't, somebody else surely will, and in this case, it might even be me. All right, everybody, have a great rest of your week. I'm out, and adios.